Hey, welcome to part 3 of our Go Fish series. Today we're going to talk about one of the most famous pieces of scripture and definitely one of Jesus's most famous miracles. It's in Matthew 8:23 and 27. It says, "Then Jesus got onto the boat and started across the lake with his disciples. Suddenly a fierce storm struck the lake with waves breaking onto the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up shouting, 'Lord, save us, we're going to drown.' And Jesus responded, 'Why are you afraid? You have such little faith.' And then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and suddenly there was a great calm. The disciples were amazed. 'Who is this man?' they asked. 'Even the winds and the waves obey him.'" Today's subject is what to do when going through the storm. And I think myself and many of us do exactly what the disciples did in the storms of our life. We freak out. You lose faith. You're running around panicked. You forget that the master of the ship, the master of the waves, the seas, is there with us. And we just kind of freak out faithlessly. And so today we're going to discuss what to do when going through the storms. And, not freaking out is probably the first thing we're going to learn not to do. So go ahead and look back at Matthew 8:23 and 27, and we'll get into it. So our first point here is to know that God is not surprised by this storm. Verse 24 says, "Suddenly a fierce storm struck the lake, waves breaking onto the boat, but Jesus was sleeping." I think a lot of people would try to twist this and say that, in times of my storm, where is God? God's not here. Oh, he's sleeping. That's not the case of what this is saying. This is saying this storm meant nothing to the God of the universe. In fact, a few verses later, he stands up and rebukes the sea and the weather. And I don't know if you've ever been on a boat when it's happening. It's very scary. And these people thought that they were going to die. And yet God is he's just not fazed. And he is in control. And as they're running about losing their brains, they forgot the one thing, that God is in control. No matter what happens, no matter what happens in our problems, in our storms, we have to let go and let God have control and know that he has control. And there's a peace from that, a peace that comes from giving up that control and knowing that God is God, being still and knowing he's God. So a good question to think about is, in the times of the storm, do you let go of the control and know that God is actually the one in control? Our second point is to know that God has a purpose and a plan beyond the storm. It says the disciples went and woke him up shouting, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." Jesus responded, "Why are you afraid? You have such little faith." And I think the key here is perspective. It's what we lose in the midst of the battle. We lose perspective on the future and even the way through. And how do we get this perspective? And I think it goes back to what I said earlier about being still and knowing God is in control. I think for me, like a lot of times, if it's heavy, if things are weighing on my mind and all these things are going on, I feel that if I can just stop and think about God and think about what he's going to do through the situation I'm in and pray to him and pray for understanding and wisdom. And I think just knowing that the Lord is going to make ways, do miracles, and to recognize that you've seen him do miracles and he's going to keep doing them. I think that's the perspective we need sometimes in the storm to help us get through the storm. So a good question would be here, whatever you're going through right now, pause, pray, meditate on God, ask him for perspective, ask him for wisdom and a way through, and know that he will make a way. Lastly, grow closer to the one who can control the storm. And he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and suddenly there was a great calm. The disciples were amazed. Who is this man? They asked. Even the winds and waves obey him. The disciples are us, people. The disciples are us. They've literally just seen this man turn water into wine weeks ago, and then, a week back, pulled up all the fish from the sea, and yet they're still like, oh, he did it again. And that is us. We are constantly surprised. And, I know God can't be frustrated, but I'd be like, come on, how many times do I got to show you this? And I think that's the point here, is that we don't need to be constantly amazed that, oh, he did it again. Oh, he did. No, it's just like, he will do it again. And that knowledge that he will, and we want to be close to the one who will do it again. Who is this man? They asked. Even the winds and the waves obey him. The God of the universe. Our problems are small to him, and he is in control. And if we put our faith in that, every battle, every storm we go through, it reminds me, I was watching Troy the other night, the movie Troy with Brad Pitt. He plays Achilles, and the soldiers are lined up for battle, and they're timid and they're scared, and they're about to go into battle, and they're looking for Achilles. He's not there. He's their champion hero. And so finally Achilles comes to the battle, and all of a sudden all the men, spirits lifted high, ready to go, because they know their champion is there. And I think the thing to note is that battle was still going to happen. People were going to die. It's war. It's going to be horrible. But their whole demeanor and their whole spirit changed, knowing that their champion was there. And that's exactly what we can have with our champion, the ultimate champion, God, is knowing he's on our side in our battles. Yes, there's going to be bloodshed. It's going to be bad. It's war. It's battle. It's life. But God is on our side. And if we can give up control, then we can get closer to the one that controls the storms. So think about that. Whatever you got going on in your life right now, whatever problem, whatever battle and storm, ask yourself, am I running around crazy, like the disciples, faithless, godless, thinking I'm in control? Or am I giving up control to the one who controls the storm?